My name is Talya Kingston. I'm WAM Theatre's Associate Artistic Director, and I'm thrilled today to be speaking with playwright Geetha Reddy about her play Far, Far Better Things. Geetha is currently developing a new version of this script that will be performed as part of WAM's Fresh Takes play reading series on April the 7th at 2 p.m. at the Foundry in West Stockbridge, and will stream online on April the 13th and 14th. So welcome, Geetha.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Before we get into Far, Far Better Things, I'm always interested to let our audiences know a little bit about playwriting and to hear from playwrights. So I'd love to hear how you got into playwriting. Is it something you've always been interested in, or how did you get drawn in?
Yeah, I was always interested in film when I was a teenager, but having Asian immigrant parents, they encouraged me to study the sciences. Luckily, I went to Wesleyan University where I was able to kind of do both. And but after I graduated, I started working in Silicon Valley. And after about a decade, when I started having children, I kind of had a third life crisis and started entering. I took a playwriting class, and the people from that class started entering a playwriting competition in the Bay Area called Playground, which is now a national, is kind of expanded nationally. And I started doing that. I started winning that competition, and then they commissioned me, and then that was my pathway in. It was a little untraditional, and later I think that a lot of playwrights.
Yeah. Um, it's great to hear that you got in through Playground because it was one of my first jobs in the San Francisco Bay Area when I was working in theater. So it's a lovely connection. Um, can you tell something? Let's get into Far, Far Better Things now. Can you tell the WAM audiences something about the setting and the setup and what inspired you to write Far, Far Better Things?
Yeah, so I got a commission from Shotgun Players and the Gerbode Foundation to write a retelling of A Tale of Two Cities. And I originally wanted to, I had grand ambitions. And I thought I really wanted to focus on the two women characters in the play who are quite underwritten.
Mhm.
And but in my reading of it, I was like, oh, these characters actually should be friends, not enemies, and they're written as enemies. And I really wanted to, using Dickens's language, reportray the book with them as allies as opposed to adversaries. And but I just got buried under Dickens's language and the enormity of setting it during the French Revolution. At the same time, the whole world, it was like 2017, 2018, 2019. There was protests. All of us were involved with activism, various kinds of activism, and I felt a kind of pull, and I was urged by my collaborators to kind of set it in the present day, which is what I did. And that kind of opened up a lot of possibilities for the play while still keeping the main ideas, the themes, even some of the motifs from the book in the work. Um, and that that led to far, far better things, as we'll see it on Sunday.
Yeah, I have to ask you just out of curiosity about the title because the lines that I know from A Tale of Two Cities is probably the same line that everybody knows as the opening line. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Where does the title Far, Far Better Things come from?
So far, far better things is at the end of A Tale of Two Cities, at the climactic moment when there's this great sacrifice. The character Sidney Carton says, it's a far, far better place I go to. I should pull out the quote, or
Yeah.
and that's what the play is based on. It was also a little wink at the fact that I had written so many versions of the play that was under the title Two Cities, and that like here's my far, far better.
Nice. Nice. So this is a new, as you've alluded to, this is a new version of the script that you're developing with us. Can you tell us about the development of the play so far and without any spoilers, because the people listening to this will probably not have seen it yet, some of the shifts you've made in the iterations as you went along?
Yeah, so the play really asks this question of like, because we were all, many of us were involved with activist movements, whether it was like, going to the Women's March or, going to other protests or, volunteering or whatever. I really started wondering like what action actually is meaning, and that isn't like, self-gratifying, but actually like it meaningfully helps somebody. And sometimes those are very painful actions, like to take, like actually donating significant amounts of money, opening your home to people, um, uh, giving up a lot of your time, going into communities where maybe you wouldn't feel safe or welcome. Those are very difficult things to do, and actually take energy and sacrifice. And so as I've been rewriting the play, I've been wanting to, keep that thread of that idea of like the struggle of trying to do those things meaningfully. And what are the cases that you can be in, or what are the circumstances you can be in that allow you to make meaningful action. But and with the rewriting, what I've been trying to do is to present that in a way that where it doesn't feel as much of a, where it doesn't feel like a parable, where it feels very real and present. So, making the characters feel really real and lived in, making the place feel really real and lived in, and the relationships feeling authentic, as opposed to like sometimes in A Tale of Two Cities, which is very melodramatic and has a lot of stock characters in it, so.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, that you've really brought us into a domestic situation, but a fraught domestic situation, and one with a lot of history in it. So I appreciate the fact that it also speaks to class. I often find that in America, we hide class behind race a lot of the times, or we don't talk overtly about it, but there's a real class disparity between the two, I would call them protagonists. I know it's an ensemble play, but the two women that you spoke of, that seems important.
Yeah, there's a class. I mean, and it's a as people will see immediately when they come to the theater, is like, the cast is all brown actors, and that I think allows people to see the women as, women in the world, and not just immediately go to their gender relationship, their racial relationship. So, but which is not, I don't want it to be dismissive of. I think that is real too. But I think sometimes theater audiences, they see the one thing and then they kind of hook onto that, and they can't like look at some of the other themes, or are not seeing the other themes at work, that they all shuffled under the thing of race. So yes.
I particularly enjoyed how it's brought out. Again, I'm trying to talk about this without giving anything away, but how it's brought out in the theme of childcare as well, which feels as a parent very prevalent. Of like, what can we, who can we afford to have? Who of us can afford to have someone else look after our kids, and who has to do the looking after? Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing I became really interested in when I was writing this, is that like women, you know, we live in this capitalist economy, but women often live in another economy, which is the sharing economy. And the anthropologist David Graeber talks about this, that, that in the sharing economy, as opposed to what you get giving you status, in the sharing economy, what you give gives you status, and that elevates you in your community. Anybody who's had been on the PTA and has known a PTA president knows this thing, right? Particularly for the women who work in our homes and take care of our children, and I include this as myself. I had a nanny for my children. That they're almost being made to feel guilty for the fact that they receive money for this work that they should be doing as part of this sharing economy, that you're part of the family, and that you aren't, that somehow asking for money is gauche or unseemly. I remember when I was writing this play one time, I was trying to get some work done, and my son called me up and said, "Oh, can you come pick me up at school? The school bus is broken down." So I popped in my car, I drove down to school, I pulled up, and he got in my car, and then like 4 other kids got in my car who I didn't know. I was like, okay, fine. They all live in the neighborhood. And then it was at the same time Uber was becoming a big deal. And I thought, how disgusted would people be if when I dropped these kids off, I was like, oh, could you guys each give me $1, or 90, 90 cents or whatever, like, you would feel disgusted with me if I had told you that story and that I charged those kids.
Mm.
But, you know, and that is the thing I think that, like, nannies and housekeepers and, the people who take care of our homes, face every day, that sense of obligation and guilt over the work they're doing. So
Yeah.
can feel.
Yeah. So as you can probably tell, this is a play that raises big questions, and it has a big landscape. But in this domestic situation, I'm very excited for our audiences to see your work in a couple of weeks. And I'm wondering what you're working on now. Is there anything else that you would like to tell us about that you're working on in addition to
Yeah,
Fafa?
I have a one-person retelling of the Mahabharata that we're hoping to either tour or remount some across the country. So, hopefully East Coast people will be able to see that soon. And I have a commission with I have commissions with TheaterWorks and SF Playhouse, and the commission at TheaterWorks is let's see, it's about Indian immigrants in Silicon Valley and how HR deals with them, I will say. And
Nice.
it's a little comedy. So, well,
Great.
big comedy.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your time today and for writing this vital and vibrant play. For those of you listening, you still have time to get your tickets to watch the reading of Far, Far Better Things, either in person on April the 7th or online, April 13th and 14th. Go to whamtheatre.com for more information and to purchase your tickets, and I'll see you at the theatre. Thank you, Geetha.
Thank you.